What is up, everyone? Happy Friday. You made it. It's the Friday Live with Lauren show. I am Lauren, your host. If you have not been here before, welcome. It is great to kind of see you. I don't know. Drop in the comments. Let us know you're here. This is not an audio event. We can't see you. We don't know. I want to say hi, but I can't if you don't let me know. So welcome if it is your first time. If you are back again, you know the deal. What's up? Did LinkedIn let you know that I was live today? Did they? Were they nice to me? I don't know. Would you share the show? Please, please, please share the show so that our friends can all hear from my wonderful guest that I have joining me today. Her name is Erin Riska. I'll bring her up in one moment. But while I'm bringing her up, you know the deal. Like I said, comment and also let us know where you're joining from. I think you're going to be really interested to hear where Erin is joining from today. All right, what's up? Let's get Miss Erin out here. Hey, Erin.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Hey, it's so good to see you. Okay, so I just kind of teased it a little tiny bit. Tell everybody, where are you joining us from?
So I'm joining you today from a little town on the northwest coast of Gran Canaria, which is one of the Spanish Canary Islands. Fun fact, a little bit early for the show, but fun fact here, this is technically a part of Europe, but on the African continent. So we are just off the coast of Morocco, and quite close to the border of Morocco and Western Sahara. So we are here for about 5 weeks this summer.
Look how far I have to zoom out so you can understand where Erin is. Look at this. That's how far I have to zoom out. Look at this.
Yeah.
Y'all.
I'm joining you from 5 hours in the future.
5 hours in the future. Y'all didn't know we could time travel on this show, did you? Let us know where you are joining us from. I think maybe you're the furthest away of anybody I've ever had on the show.
Maybe. Yeah.
I think that's really exciting. That's going to be the new fun fact. If you are watching, you can always ask your questions in the chat. We will do our best to answer them if we can, if they're appropriate, if we have time, all the things, you know. But while you're asking questions, while you're thinking of the things, Erin, I'm going to make you big, and I want you to tell everybody, who is Erin Riska?
Oh gosh, where to start? Well, I guess the best place to start, now that we've covered where I'm currently located, is I am a nomadic mama. So digital nomads have been sort of all the rage for several years now, certainly in the wake of the remote revolution, inspired by the pandemic. But even before that, digital nomadism was common and on the rise. And so I have been living as a digital nomad along with my family for the better part of 4 years at this point. So traveling full time, enjoying all of the benefits of location independence, which is one of our topics for today. So I am indeed a nomadic mama. I have 2 children, both boys. They are 8 and 11, and raising them together with my husband. So professionally, I am a talent acquisition professional, long time people ops pro. That's how I found my way to talent acquisition, sort of via the HR track. And for the entire duration of our location independent life, I have practiced under my own banner, Search and Rescue, where I provide talent acquisition services as a fractional partner to a variety of clients. And I partner with my clients in a number of different capacities. So really sort of client driven, depending on their needs. And so that's one of the other topics that we will cover today, are some of the different models for external recruitment.
I love how you just talked about everything about yourself, and it lines up with all the topics perfectly. I don't think anybody's ever done that. I was like, oh yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah. I love it. I met you through the talent acquisition world, right? Who introduced us? I don't even remember anymore. I'm so sorry. Whoever introduced me to Erin.
I think we just really began to see one another in comment sections and became familiar with each other's sort of, the way we show up, right, on LinkedIn, and began commenting on one another's content. And next thing you know, we were like jamming out on a Zoom call, just getting to know each other. So yeah,
I love it.
I love that kind of happenstance.
Tom says Nomadic Mama would be a great brand name. Yes, it would. You could just start a whole Instagram series, or I don't know. TikTok's going away, maybe I heard. I don't know. Do y'all think TikTok's really going away? Let me know. 1 for yes in the comments, 2 for no. Is TikTok really going away? I don't know who this is. Hey, everyone, LinkedIn user. This is your privacy settings. That's a you thing,
Hey,
not
hey.
happy to see you here. I'm sure when I go check later, I'll be able to tell who you are, but that's between you and LinkedIn and StreamYard. But what's up? Okay, we have a few more things to talk about, and then we'll jump into all the topics. Really quick, we got to say what's up to Sendoso. They are our official gifting sponsor. If you've never received a gift in part of like your sales process or like as a new hire or anything like that, it's absolutely insane. Michelle Craig, who comes on and does High Five Friday, was actually the first person to ever gift me something. She worked for a different gifting company that we will not name, but she worked for a different gifting company. She's the first person to ever gift me something. That was my first experience into it. And then I got involved with Sendoso and found the right way. So y'all, if you want to learn about Sendoso, or if you'd like to win something today, you can comment #Sendoso. We'll be giving away a gifting experience for you. Tell you more about that later. We're going to keep rolling. Also, what's up right above my head? You will see we got Better Leap in the house. Better Leap is a tool for recruiters. I'm sure we have some people in recruiting and talent acquisition. Better Leap is how I source all of my candidates now. I have switched from everything else I was using. It's got great data. It's super simple. The Chrome extension is chef's kiss for me. So that's how I recruit and source all my candidates. So if you haven't used Better Leap, I would love to help you out, tell you all about it. I have a link. I get nothing for it. It's not like I get paid. I just want to help you out. But they do sponsor the show, and you and Sendoso, Better Leap and Sendoso are what let us go live every Friday with awesome people like Erin over here. I always worry I'm going to point the wrong way.
No, you got the right one. And I'll go ahead and give a +1 for Better Leap. I also love it.
Yeah, I look at the microphone in real life, and then I look at you, and I'm like, okay, go this way. Whatever, y'all. It is what it is. And yeah, Erin likes Better Leap too. We both recruit for different things in different capacities all over different parts of the world, right? So if it's working for me and it's working for Erin, I bet it would work for you as well. Okay, last but not least, before we jump in, we are doing a pet look-alike contest. And y'all, you don't actually have to look like your pet. But I've been told that if you look like your pet, you're a Bowser. That's the term. Bowser.
All right.
So my question to you, people of LinkedIn, are you a Bowser? Would you submit a photo of yourself with your pet? And if we choose you, you would get to pick the animal shelter of your choice. And Jen Allen and I will each donate $100 to the animal shelter of your choice. It's for charity. Let's give away some good stuff. Donate or submit. Don't donate. You can donate too if you want, but submit. I'll drop the link in the chat while Erin's talking in a little bit. But pet lookalike contest. I don't think you probably have a pet with how much you're moving.
You wouldn't believe it, but I do. So, I'm nomading with my husband, my 2 kids, and my cat. So my little kitty, although he's not little, he's enormous. He's a big, fat, hairy orange cat, looks like a Garfield. His name's Hugo. He has been traveling also with us. I think that he has more countries under his belt than most people from North America.
Okay, we're gonna get Erin to submit a picture of her and her cat and see if she really does look like Garfield. What's your cat's name?
Hugo.
Hugo. There we go. There's a drink called a Hugo Spritz I like, so I don't think I'm gonna forget your cat's name ever. I bet your cat's been to more different countries than I have.
Maybe. I mean, like 7.
Yep.
Yeah.
Many more. It's okay. I'm not well traveled. I'm not afraid to admit it.
That's all right.
But you live a life that I think a lot of people are really curious about. So we'll get into that in a little bit. And first, we're going to talk about models for external recruiting partnerships. Now, Erin, I talk a lot on this show, and I explain, I feel like more than most people, the difference between agency and external recruiters and internal recruiters and what we all do. But for the people watching who might not know, and maybe it's their first time tuning in, they've never heard from me before, can you just give people a quick breakdown when we're going to talk about external recruiting partnerships? Yeah. What do we mean?
Yeah. So, I think for those who are unacquainted, they tend to think of recruiting in 2 buckets, right? Internal and external, and don't necessarily think of some of the granular elements that differentiate the different ways that you can be an external recruiter. And I think this conversation is terrific for folks who want to understand that better, because you and I both partner with companies as external recruiters, but we do so in totally different capacities. So, if I understand it correctly, your business is really structured in such a way that you are sort of an agency style recruiter. You take on contingent search pretty frequently. Probably also do some things on a retained basis from time to time, right? Yes.
Correct.
So my business is structured very, very differently. And I think that this is a testament to the two different paths that you and I took to talent acquisition. So you came up through the agency world. That's sort of where you like earned your stripes, learned the business, learned how to do that work. As I indicated earlier, I came to talent acquisition by way of human resources. I worked as an HR professional for well over a decade. And under the broad banner of everything that I did as an HR professional was recruiting. And so over time, I began to niche down into the elements of the work that I loved the best, that I felt made the best use of my time and talent, and I felt most gratified by. And so that really led me to talent acquisition. That's what I loved the most, right? And when I made that transition to only working in TA, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders because I was like, I never have to do a workers' comp audit ever again. Right? Like the things that HR professionals do that are sort of, checking boxes. So my talent acquisition practice is really structured in such a way that I continue to partner with companies in such a way that looks and feels a lot like internal recruiting. So, first and foremost, one of the biggest differentiators is that I literally never work on a contingent basis. I've never worked a contingent search. I probably never will. I only work in such a way that I am a partner to my clients over a prolonged period of time. And I have my business structured so there are a few different ways that my clients can opt into how they work with me: contained, retained. And then also, I even have one client that I work with in a capacity that probably feels really similar to like contract recruiting because I literally just bill them for my time. And so I tend to have these prolonged partnerships. I really am an embedded partner. I almost always work inside my clients' systems, right? So I work inside their ATS. Usually, I even have an email address that is under their, whatever their www is, right? So to a candidate, an applicant, when they are communicating with me, unless and until I tell them that I am an external partner to the organization, which I always do. I never misrepresent my relationship with my clients, but unless and until I do tell them that, they usually assume that I am an internal recruiter. So it is something that has just come very intuitively for me. It's worked very well for me because it allows me to bridge this gap that kept me from pursuing this kind of recruiting for a long time, which was that I thought I was not cut out for external recruiting because I wouldn't be able to connect to the mission and the vision and the values of the companies I recruited for, right? I just had this idea in my mind that it would be one and done, do a search on a contingent basis and move on. And I've really come to understand agency-based recruiting in a much deeper way now, and so I know there's much more to it, and there's absolutely true partnership in the contingent world as well. But for me, working on this embedded basis with these enduring relationships with my partners, right? Like my longest running client right now, I have been partnered with them for 2.5 years, right? I'm the only external recruiter that they use. I'm the only external recruiter they've ever successfully used. So that has been a way for me to still feel that connection to the roles and the work that I am helping to hire people to do.
I love it. Do you
Yeah.
think that there is a way for companies to really determine which kind of recruiter would work for their specific needs, right? So, like you just
Yeah.
said very specifically, we do very different types of recruiting, but
Yeah.
different companies need different things at different stages, which is another thing I like to point out. At
Yep.
one stage, Erin might be the right recruiter. At one stage, I might be the right recruiter. Things
Yep.
changed over time, which is another reason why I like that you highlighted how long your longest relationship has been.
Mhm.
But do you think there's like any key factors that companies could use to prioritize which type of partnership they should be engaging with?
Yeah. So I think that agency-based recruiters and or contingent search can be a really effective model for companies that have either really, really limited hiring needs, right? So this could be, say, an extremely early stage startup, and they need to hire a CTO. They have literally nobody on their current team that is capable of executing that kind of a search, right? Like that is an excellent example of where you might want to leverage a partner on this very sort of niche basis and on a contingent basis as well. I think another sort of circumstance where you might want to use a contingent search partner and even just an agency generally is if you have a really, really niche role that you anticipate you'll probably just need to hire for once, right? And so that can happen at any organizational size. And then, for a partner like me, I think my model makes sense in a couple of circumstances as well. So I often refer to the work that I do as being really either foundational or supplemental. And so I can be a great foundational partner to a early stage startup that is starting to scale. They have more significant needs than just a new CTO, right? They know they're going to be bringing some people on, but they don't need full-time dedicated recruiting support just yet. There's going to be multiple roles, and the nature of those needs are going to evolve over time, right? Either like ramp up really quickly and then scale back, or just, kind of steadily increase over time as the organization grows. And so, on more than one occasion, I have joined a startup as a foundational recruiting resource, their first sort of actual recruiting professional, right? As opposed to just like hiring their buddies. I've been their first professional. I come in, help them scale to a certain size, and then quite literally also replace myself by helping them hire their first internal talent acquisition professional. So that can be a really terrific model. And then also that supplemental support can be, either staying on to continue to support growth, even once they maybe have a full-time TA professional on board, or in really any company if they are finding that they're going to have sort of a hiring blitz, and it's going to be intense for a period of time but also limited in duration, right? So frankly, in a really similar capacity to bringing somebody on a contract basis. I mean, really, when I work with an organization in that capacity where I am billing them for my time, it is in fact almost exactly the same as contract recruiting. The difference is simply that they sign my contract as opposed to
Right.
me signing theirs. And then one other example of where sort of embedded partnership really makes great sense is if you have a niche role, but you anticipate needing to hire for it repeatedly. So that client that I referenced just a little while ago, the one I've been with for about 2.5 years, they have an internal talent acquisition team that hires almost all of their hiring. I hire for one very specific small division of the company where they have a very niche role with some really complex requirements. And I know the industry really well. And so they use me for that role, and they just kind of, ring me up every time they have a new opening for that particular team.
I love how you explain the different ways you work with your different partners
Yeah.
and why it makes sense to work with different people in different
Yeah.
aspects. I do think it's important that you realize if you're watching this and you are a recruiter, if you're finding yourself in a position where maybe you're wondering if recruiting is still the right thing for you, I would challenge you to think about all the ways Erin's talking about how you can partner with different companies and
Mm-hmm.
really think about the ways you could take control of your own career. You can learn things, you can reach out to people. People will give you more information than you could ever imagine. When I first got into recruiting and I was my little baby recruiter and I knew nothing, I got on so many calls with people where I would look at them, I'd say, I have nothing I can give you right now, but if you will help me and teach me, I promise tenfold I will be able to return the favors later. And I had 2 or 3 very key people who got on calls with me and gave me information and helped me and said, if you feel this way, you could try this, or if this is working, maybe you should do this too. And I just think that just because one aspect of recruiting isn't right for you, doesn't mean it's not the career for you.
That's
There are
right.
multiple ways to do it. And I like that you're coming on and talking about this because I don't think I've ever had somebody come on and really explain all of the different ways you can actually partner as an external recruiter.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so part of you being an external recruiter, this is going to move right into our next topic. You are a solopreneur. Me too.
Yes.
But I want to talk about this. As we know, being a solopreneur provides a number of benefits, a number of challenges, a number
Mhm.
of all of the things, really, in my
Yeah.
opinion. You're wearing every hat, you're doing all of the things, you have to prioritize. You've already said you travel, you are nomadic with your 2 children, your husband, your cat. I mean, you have a lot going on. I can
Yeah.
barely keep track of myself driving 15 minutes from my house to my office. So I'm not really sure how you do it all.
Mm.
But as a solopreneur, especially being nomadic, what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing managing your business?
Oh, gosh, that's a good one. So, I guess it really stems from what you said, where you really have to do it all, or at least you feel like you have to do it all, right? So, I think one of the best lessons that I've learned in solopreneurship is that even though I became a solopreneur for myself, right? Because I knew that this was going to be the route to the kind of autonomy that I wanted and needed in order to live my life the way that I wanted to, right? Like the autonomy to be location independent stems directly from the fact that I'm a solopreneur, right? So I did this for myself. It took me a while to figure out that I don't actually have to do it by myself, right? So, and I did do it by myself for a while at the beginning. It just kind of felt like, well, of course, like I'm a solopreneur, and that's what you do. But I'm not good at everything. I'm really good at some things, and I'm frankly shit at a lot of others. And so once I realized I didn't actually have to do everything, I didn't have to be good at everything, I didn't have to like everything. That really gave me a lot of freedom. And so that sort of overcoming that mindset, that was certainly a challenge. And then, aside from that, though, even with the knowledge that while I'm doing this for myself, but not by myself, it still can lend itself to a certain amount of kind of isolation if you let it. I think it's very, very easy to get lost in working on your business or in your business, but not both, right? I think it's really important when you're a solopreneur to be able to do both. And I think most solopreneurs tend toward one rather than the other. I am very much a work in my business kind of solopreneur. And I've met a lot of people who are work on my business solopreneurs who they love the launching of the business and everything that happens on the back end, but they don't spend very much time doing the work, right? I'm the opposite. So, and because of that, if I don't work against that thing that comes to me pretty innately, it can wind up being pretty isolating. If I were a solopreneur in any other industry aside from talent acquisition, that would probably not be tenable. And the reason that it is tenable is simply that the nature of my work as a talent acquisition professional, I'm talking to people all of the time. So that sort of protects against the isolation element, right? Because I'm always talking to another candidate or a client. But it has been so helpful for me to leverage LinkedIn the way that I have, because I use it for the work I do as a recruiter, obviously. Unlike you, I don't only source via Better Leap. I do use LinkedIn also, but I mean, so much of the benefit of LinkedIn for me is secondary to using it to recruit. The benefit really derives from the relationships that I've developed with other talent acquisition professionals, right? I mean, this is a really, really cool community to be a part of. And so I continue to invest in that platform because that's where my people are. And that really protects against some of that isolation. And so many of us are working in this capacity now, this solopreneur capacity. So it's really great to have that support system.
And when I first got into recruiting, I really thought it would be more like dog eat dog. I didn't realize so many people were going to be so supportive of each other. Y'all, there's enough to go around for everyone.
Yeah,
And I want to ask
especially
you,
if you're good.
especially if you're good, but I want
Yeah.
to ask if somebody's watching today and they're considering right? Solopreneurship, especially if they're in recruiting. What are like the essential, maybe like 3 things or traits or skills, or what are the things that, like, if you're considering this, you need to know this, and maybe it's like stuff we
Yeah.
should have known before.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask a clarifying question. Do you mean
Uh-huh.
if they are like a recruiting solopreneur or a solopreneur more generally?
So maybe give an advice for general and an advice for somebody if they're specific, right? Because
Yeah. Yep.
we've we've kind of, we know very specifically the recruiting side, but I mean, I
Yep.
think I could tell everybody a little bit about being a
Yeah.
solopreneur.
Yeah. So this is advice that I think is really wise across the board, regardless of whether you're a solopreneur working in talent acquisition or something else completely unrelated. And it is, you really need to understand your numbers, and you need to understand when will be the right time with regards to revenue to make the transition from just a regular old like LLC. I'm going to go ahead and assume that you actually have established a business as an LLC, right? So, and you're not just like working under your name. So knowing when to make that transition from being just a regular old LLC to one that has S corp tax status. So there comes a point where financially it really makes a lot of sense to apply for S corp tax status, which you will still be an LLC. You will just have this specific tax status, and it is very, very powerful for helping to mitigate some of that exposure that we have to contend with around self-employment tax. So it's so complex. And I don't want to go into the details because, frankly, I'm not a financial professional. I'm not really qualified to give advice, other than to say, make sure you have a qualified financial professional and that you understand your numbers and you know when to make that transition, because it's really, really powerful.
So my number one piece of advice is always day 1, hire an accountant. Day 2, hire a therapist. Therapist will do accountant day 1.
Totally. Yeah. Got to do it.
The rest will work itself out if you
Yeah.
hire a good accountant and a good therapist.
Yes.
You're gonna
Yeah.
need both.
Yep.
We're all a little crazy if we go into the world of working for ourselves. I think so, but it just means that at the end of the day, you have a little teeny tiny bit more control. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I also think that I think it means that your house of cards can come crashing down a lot easier than if you were working for someone else and had that stability too. So I think that it's the type of person you'll know inside when you start working for yourself. If you ever take that risk and you do start, you'll know pretty quickly if that wasn't the right move for you. You'll feel
That's
it,
true.
you'll have that anxiety, you'll know. But I do also think that there is a path for everybody in some sense of
Mhm.
being a solopreneur. There's some way that you could work for yourself. And if you've never really thought about it, I just challenge you to kind of consider the ways that you possibly could
Yeah,
over this
absolutely.
beautiful long weekend we have. Hi, Mark from the Town Center Mall. Do they have any good sales? I'll pop over. It's right by me. And yes, we are giving it up for Erin all day. Can offer great insight on how and when to
Mm,
transition. Here we go. Tom, plug in the good people. This is what LinkedIn's about.
I
Finding
love
the right
that.
people in your network to help. Mando can help. Okay, it is. We're already at the halfway point.
What?
I know, right? Okay, don't forget you can comment Sendoso for a chance to win a gifting experience. Nobody's commented so far, so you got a pretty good chance. And while you're commenting Sendoso, Aaron, I'm gonna let you take a little break. I'll see you in like 2 minutes. Be right back. While you're commenting Sendoso, if you want to, I'm just gonna let you all know this is the part of the show where we do High Five Friday. High five, high five. This is where you get to shout out the amazing things that the people in your network are doing. You get to high five them. Did somebody get a job? Did somebody get a promotion? Did you get a job? You can high five yourself. High fiving ourselves is totally cool. I want to give a giant high five to Michelle Craig, who is the person who came up with this concept and brought it onto the show for all of you. I asked if Michelle would just take today off. It is a long holiday weekend. I know what it's like to have to come every single Friday. I love showing up for you guys, but this isn't Michelle's thing, and I don't want her to feel like she has to do it every week. So, Michelle, I hope you are sitting by a pool, enjoying a barbecue, and not working right now. And I'm just going to show you guys a little video. It does have the link if you want to submit a high five for next week. But I'm just going to show you a little video of some of our previous high fives. You'll get to see Michelle And then we'll be right back. See you a second.
Let's get into your high fives. First off, Melody Links wants to give a high five to all of the talent acquisition professionals out there. She found the show through Amy Miller, who was just recently on, and wants to high five Amy and all those other TA folks that are working really hard to help people get into jobs. Speaking all over LinkedIn, Kaylin wants to give a shout out to Grayson for being an exceptional leader and founder at Grove Cookie Company, and for sharing all of that cookie dough with the masses to strengthen any relationship. We have Phil for Megan. I want to high five my friend Megan, number one, for celebrating her first week in her new HR role and for supporting me and the fulfillment brand by sharing my summer career coaching special that I have going on. Megan has gone above and beyond to support me, even when this business journey has been like waves in the ocean. Thank you, Megan, for your awesomeness and friendship. And then Miss Leslie, who was on the show a few weeks ago as well, for Nikki Ivy, have you seen the newsletter she's been writing? It is profound. The woman was meant to write, and I'm so grateful she's gifting us with her poetry and perspective. And then number two, from Leslie for Monica. Monica is smart, so smart, and is one of the most unique people I've ever met. She's able to blend her creativity, spirituality, and knack for sales in a way that feels effortless. She's also ready to lend a bit of perspective, support, or just an uplifting word. Last but not least, we have another Megan. Megan has been my co-mentor for, nearly 4 years, I'd bet. Having her to sense check my thinking, to inspiring me to reach higher, and to remind me that I deserve to take up space has been a blessing. I've seen very few people work as hard at becoming and being the best version of themselves as Meg does. She also says my name repeatedly in rooms that I'm not in, and that's what real sisterhood looks like.
All right. So you can scan that QR code, I guess, if you go back on the replay. I also just dropped the link in the comments. You can submit a high five, drop a high five for next week here. We roll these out every Friday. We typically can get in about maybe 5 a show. We have a few that piled up from this week because we didn't do it this week, but please submit high fives, shout out some people. It also just helps other people find out about the show. So do your girl a favor, drop a high five. Cool. All right. Thanks. Let me get Erin back out here. What's up?
Hey.
I always tell people you're going to need a break for a little bit of water. And I needed a break
Totally.
from my jacket because I was freezing in here.
Awesome.
The whole first half of the show, I realized I was like shaking the desk a little bit. I was like, oh, I hope the camera wasn't shaking. My legs were freezing. Y'all, they got the AC pumping today. But I also think it's because there's nobody in the co-work. Like, I think the people make it hot.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's nobody here today. So
I mean, bodies are hot, right? Put a whole bunch of them in there. They warm it up.
I guess I never realized I like the bodies in the office. I like the bodies, y'all. It's cold in here. No, actually, one of the things I want to bring up, we talk about networking and LinkedIn and how great it is. One of the things that's been awesome for me is being in this co-work and getting to meet the people in the co-work and help actually meet companies and place people there. And there's always opportunity to network. I literally was sitting at a bar with a friend one time, and there was a bunch of people that I could tell were at a work dinner, and they had on like their logo, you know? So I'm like Google searching the logo, go to the page, figure out the one guy is like pretty important. And I literally got a client at the bar that night from always knowing that there's a moment to network. So y'all, you can network in person, you can network on LinkedIn, you can network in a co-work, you can network at your Starbucks.
Absolutely.
Go out, meet new people. I think the number one piece of advice I want to give people is that you're not networking enough, especially on LinkedIn. You're not having enough conversations. You're not talking to enough people about what they do and just getting to know people. Stop trying to pitch slap people. Just try to get to know people, and you'll be so much more successful.
Yeah.
All right. That was my rant for the day. Now we're going to get into I'm most excited for this topic. I think the first thing I talked about when I was talking about you earlier was the fact that you are nomadic. And I think a lot of people are so curious about living this lifestyle. So can you please talk to us, especially as this becomes more popular. Can you talk to us about what made you make this decision?
Oh, yeah, gosh. You know, I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, looking back on it, it was like probably in part coping mechanism. You know, we started traveling full time during the pandemic, which sounds crazy. People thought we were crazy when we started. We started in late summer, early fall of 2020, right? So there was this little bit of a lull with pandemic activity. It seemed like things were improving a bit, sort of between surges, and that's when we took off. But the idea itself really began as a joke between my husband and I. A few months prior to that, we had done a big road trip all around the American West where we lived, in a very sort of like stay safe manner, just driving all around for 2 weeks. And it went really, really well in a way that just kind of surprised us because our travels with our children prior to that had not gone well. And so I just kind of started joking with him about other ways to continue traveling. And one day I said to him something along the lines of, oh, I heard on NPR that Hawaii is healing because tourist activity is so dramatically reduced. What if we just go like hide out in Hawaii, like wait this thing out? And it was a joke that I made a few times. And my husband is super duper cautious and risk averse. Like he really needs a swift kick in the butt from me to do big, bold things ever. And so he always just kind of like, laughed and shook it off. And then another day I was like, well, gosh, you know what, honey, I heard on NPR that Croatia is going to be the only EU member country that will allow US passport holders to enter in the summer of 2020. And I'd been to Croatia like 18 years prior or something, 16 years, and loved it. And so this whole like let's wait it out on Hawaii thing transitioned to let's wait it out in Croatia. And I just kept making the joke. And then one day he was like, okay, let's do it. And I, I don't know if I'd worn him down or worked him up, but nevertheless, like literally next thing you know, like we listed our house. We sold our house. It sold immediately. We sold almost everything that we owned because I was like, I am not paying for a storage unit. Like I literally cannot even stomach the idea of paying for a storage unit ever in my life. And so I was like, I'm not paying to store this stuff. It has to get sold. And we just did it. We just went for it. So really, I think what made it possible for us is that we were just in these really extraordinary times. And the way I kind of sold it to my husband is like, when is this ever going to happen again? Both of our careers were disrupted by COVID. I was on furlough. My husband was laid off. And then, schools had gone remote. I was like, when are we ever going to find ourselves in this position again where we're both sort of untethered from formal employment and we have all of this ambiguity about education for our kids? Let's just do it. And so we did. And we thought we would probably just go enjoy like a family gap year. And here we are almost 4 years later, and we're still going. So it's been a family gap 4 years, I guess.
I think that's a perfect time for a gap. And it sounds like the gap's going to continue.
For the time being.
Mark went to Croatia last month.
It's amazing.
Beautiful. I'd have to see some pictures. Mark, text me a few. I bet it was awesome.
Yeah, Croatia's our favorite. That's actually where we were just prior to coming to Gran Canaria.
I love it. Okay, I do have to ask, because this is another question that keeps popping in my head. You travel all the time. You're all over the place.
Yep.
Obviously, you're going to pick places that you can work, right? But how do you balance working successfully, all the different time zones, but also getting to like live this life you want to live with your family and your kids? How do you balance that?
Yeah. So I have to tell you, I find it very easy. It comes very intuitively for me. And I think this is for a couple of reasons. The first is we do spend most of our time in Europe. We sort of go back and forth between Europe and Mexico. And so I really, really love Mexico, but I really prefer being in Europe, and it has to do with time zones. And so the reason for this is that currently I'm 5 hours ahead of East Coast US. A lot of the time we're 6 hours ahead, 7, maybe even 8, depending on where we are. And so I love that I'm able to start my days on my terms. North America is asleep. I'm able to do maybe a little bit of work that does not need to be synchronous, right? Like admin related to my business. I can do that early in the morning while my kids are hanging, starting their day. And then we have the day, several hours in the midst of the day to enjoy ourselves, enjoy the place where we are, enjoy each other. Because again, North America is still sleeping, right? Nobody is going to call me when it's 5 in the morning for them. So I really love that. And then I do most of my work, my actual like synchronous work that needs to be collaborative with clients and candidates. I do this late afternoon and evenings. So I would make an excellent second shifter, right? If I were based in the US. So I really love that particular structure. And I recognize that it wouldn't necessarily work for everyone. And certainly maybe nomads in a different age or stage of life because like I'm sacrificing my evenings. But I mean, I'm well beyond the point in my life where I have any interest in nightlife, right? All my interest is purely in day life. I want to be out at the beach, enjoying beautiful places, having great meals with my family, with my friends that we meet as we're traveling. So I love the way that the time zones in Europe lend themselves to me being able to split my day the way that I do. I also, I mean, perhaps you can relate to this depending on how you recruit, but you know, a lot of the recruiting I do is obviously very, very sourcing heavy. I can source from anywhere. I mean, I have like been at a water park with my kids, they're on slides, and I am on my phone sourcing, right? Like building lists of candidates to target, that sort of thing. So there's so much of my work that I'm able to do in a very, very integrated fashion as far as my life is concerned. So that's kind of why I prefer being in Europe to Mexico, because when I'm in Mexico, the time zones line up with North America. And so then I have to work like normal business hours, and that's not what I love.
Who wants to do that?
Well,
No,
yeah.
I do agree. You sacrifice your evenings. I used to be the person who I would rather get up very early in the morning and get all of my things done early so I could have my afternoons and evenings. That's because my kid has sports in the afternoons and evenings.
Yeah.
So for
Yep.
me, it was a flip flop of come in very early. I had days where I was literally doing my hair and makeup in the office because I got
Yep.
here so early that I didn't need it on that early. But then I realized there were people out there and maybe I should fix my face. But it's kind of the opposite. And a lot of that for me is also that while I'm in one place, being a solopreneur gives me independence of working with people in other locations,
That's right.
which is different. Now, I will say, being in the States, I don't really want to recruit for people in Europe. I don't want to go that way. But it's very easy for me being in Florida to work with a lot of West Coast companies. They start later than me. It's super simple for me to work on the West Coast. I don't mind that at all. And just like Erin said, it kind of gives you that freedom and flexibility, and you can work from anywhere, y'all. LinkedIn has an app. Erin, I probably use this for LinkedIn Recruiter app all the time.
I sure do. Absolutely. I mean, I could give you a lengthy list of all the places where I have worked. I mean, ultimately, 85% of the work that I do as a recruiter is from my phone.
Yeah. You said that you built a list at a water park, and I got some PTSD flashbacks from the water park last summer when I got a call that one person turned down the offer. One person was rejected at the last. I lost 3 deals one day at the water park. So it wasn't me sourcing. It was like
any water parks anymore. Oh gosh.
Why did I take my phone? And it was the first day that I'd ever not brought my laptop somewhere. And like, I really needed to be able to get on my laptop and kind of fix some things. And it was like that moment where I was like, "That's what it is."
Yeah.
And sometimes that's life, people. Sometimes
it is.
It'll just be what it is.
That's
and
right.
You can kick yourself about it, or you can harp on it, or you can realize that you probably won't remember in 5 years and you can just move the fuck on.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Our last topic of the day, I think the most important topic of the day, we are going to talk about the state of the market. Y'all, are you watching? Are you a job seeker, or have you been in this search for a while? Maybe you're miserable and you're like, Lauren, I really want to quit, but everybody says I can't because I can't find a job. Y'all, we're going to talk to you about what this market is really like. And Erin is still trying to do some research. So Erin, I'm going to let you take it away. But for the people watching, what are you seeing with the state of the market right now?
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, I am a real nerdy lady. I actually really love following what's happening in the labor market. And in fact, I've done quite a lot of writing via my LinkedIn profile for anybody who really wants to do a deep dive on sort of the big jobs reports that BLS publishes each month, right? So the monthly jobs report, which we got one today, and then also the JOLTS report, which measures labor turnover, which we got 2 days ago. So this is a big week, great week for me to come on because we've got these two reports this week. But I've followed them both really closely for a long time, and I did a deep dive, really digging into what they actually report on, where the data comes from, all of that good stuff. So if you want to know more, like certainly you can scroll back, take a look at like April on my LinkedIn profile if you want to see that stuff. But I mean, really what it boils down to right now, we're seeing more of this with today's jobs report, which found 206,000 new jobs created in the month of June, which continues to be strong and steady, right? It's not like some of the bigger blockbuster numbers that we were seeing earlier in the year. Like there was one month, I think 330,000 jobs. And, there's always revisions in the 2 months following the original publication. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down. We have seen both up and down this year. They don't always only ever get revised down, but nevertheless, 206 for the month of June, which is solid. And that feels like a little bit of a slap in the face, I think, to a lot of job seekers, especially job seekers who are spending a lot of time on LinkedIn. Because what we are experiencing right now is really sort of a tale of two labor markets. There are areas of the economy, areas of the labor market that are, in fact, incredibly rife with opportunity, very, very, very competitive, a lot of opportunity out there for job seekers, right? Where companies continue to really have a hard time finding the talent that they need, either because of lack of skill or just lack of manpower. So that really is a real thing. And I know that a lot of people who spend a significant amount of time on LinkedIn find that hard to believe if they're actively in the market, because if they're coming from something in sort of the professional services, right? People that do the work that you and I do, Lauren, right? Talent acquisition professionals. We've been so hard hit by all of the layoff and labor turnover over the last, gosh, at this point, 20 months, right? Maybe even longer. And it feels like there's a dearth of opportunity for talent acquisition professionals. Similarly, marketers have had a hard time. People who work in tech more broadly have had a really hard time. We know that this has been just a really awful time as far as especially B2B SaaS is concerned. And so people who come from those fields probably find it really hard to believe that 206,000 new jobs were created. To the point that, I mean, some people will put a tinfoil hat on and they're convinced that we're being lied to, the data is being misrepresented, there's, a political agenda at play. I mean, you guys, I assure you, BLS, yes, it is a government agency, but it is an apolitical government agency. They're not lying, okay? The data is real. It's just so much more nuanced than anyone working in one specific industry is able to fully wrap their mind around, right? And so what I mean here is there are industries where there's an enormous amount of opportunity for people who are prepared to make a pivot in their career, right? So if you're someone like that, right? If you're like, boy, I got into talent acquisition at the height of all of that hiring frenzy in 2020, 2021, then I got shit canned and now I can't find a job. You know what? It might be time to move on to some other field. And if you're looking for some insights into what those fields are, I will tell you because I did a deep dive on the JOLTS report today. This is what tells us how many job openings there are out there right now. And if you look beyond the headline numbers, if you actually read the whole report, you can also find out what fields those jobs are in, right? So here's the craziest thing that really, I think, highlights how strong the job market actually is, even though it doesn't feel like it to a lot of people. In May of 2024, which is the JOLTS report that we just got today. It's always 2 months old, whereas jobs report is 1 month old. So in May of 2024, there were 8.1 million job openings. And guys, I promise you, this has nothing to do with like the jobs that are posted on jobs boards. So if you're worried about those being duplicates or old jobs or fake jobs or whatever, that's not where the data comes from. These are real jobs, 8.1 million jobs available across the United States. In February of 2020, right, the final full month before the start of the pandemic, which was a time when the labor market was really strong. It was not frenzied, but it was a very strong labor market at that point in time. There were 6.9 million jobs. Okay, so what that means is right now, in what feels like an awful labor market to a lot of people, there's actually more jobs available than there were right before the start of the pandemic. Which again, I understand this feels hard to believe, but I promise you this is true. The problem and why this feels so unbelievable to people is where those jobs are, right? So, so many of the jobs that are currently available are jobs that, frankly, a lot of people don't want to do or they're not qualified to do. So, the single biggest area of opportunity, if you want to make a pivot and you want to find yourself a job quickly, although you're going to have to do some training and get yourself prepared because you may not qualify right now, is in healthcare, right? This should come as no surprise. Healthcare leads the hiring activity month over month over month. That's also where the most job openings are, and that's across healthcare. So, you know, if you're unemployed and you're really having a hard time deciding what you can or should do next, it might be a good time to evaluate whether there are opportunities and roles in healthcare that pique your interest, that you could do some training for and make a transition into. And then education, of course, continues to be an area where we're seeing a lot of activity. And then finally, where we see a lot is the industry that the BLS refers to as trade and transportation and utilities. And that's a really, really big industry. It's comprised of like wholesale trade, retail trade, transportation, people working in, like literally utilities like electricity, production, that sort of thing. So it's a huge industry, but that is another one. And so the sort of common thread running through all of those industries, and this is what I'm getting at earlier when I said that these are jobs people don't want. It's not that they're jobs that don't pay well, because a lot of these jobs actually do pay well. Healthcare, terrifically. There's a lot of money to be made working in healthcare. Education, listen, a lot of teachers actually, and a lot of professionals working in education generally, actually do earn pretty respectable incomes, right? Depending on the market they're in, the role they're working in, and in in utilities, that sort of thing. There's money to be made. The challenge and why people don't want these jobs is that every single one of those fields are not compatible with working on a remote basis, and we have simply let the cat out of the bag, right? The remote revolution introduced a lot of people to a new way of working, one that I enjoy and I benefit from tremendously, right? But a lot of jobs just cannot be done on a remote basis. And a lot of people, they've gotten the taste of this autonomy, of this freedom, and they're like, I'm never working on site in an office ever again in my life. And if and when people feel that way, I sympathize, because I feel similarly. I can't really envision myself working on site somewhere again. But you know what? If I needed a job, I would sure as hell go do it. Exactly. So, these are just some things that I think folks would be wise to take into consideration. So I think the biggest piece of advice I would give people is pull that dang JOLTS report and really look at the tables that are down below, like those headline data points, and look at the exact industries and where the most openings are. The good news is professional services, and this is where you find things like marketing and finance and accounting and recruiting and all of us office dorks. That is an industry that has a lot of openings and a lot of hiring. Okay, it is happening. It's not one of these industries where there's truly nothing available. It's just there's just a lot of people in the market.
Yeah. And I want to tell people who are listening, I talk to a lot of people. I recruit mainly in SaaS. Everybody knows that. We have a lot of other clients now because we have diversified since the SaaS world has But I just want to be very straightforward with people watching. If you think that it is unfair that you're not getting interviews or whatnot, if you are in tech, I'd like to remind you all that a few years ago, there was a lot of funding and a lot of money, and a lot of companies grew, frankly, way too quickly and spent way too much money. And a lot of them ended up going under. And we've seen a lot of layoffs since then. And you've seen a lot of people in mass layoffs. And I'm going to reference something, and y'all bear with me. But if you've ever worked in hospitality and you've ever worked in a restaurant, if you book a time at a restaurant, they're staggered, right? If you book a reservation, it's staggered. And that's so the people can serve you effectively. Because if everybody all at once walks into the restaurant, they're overwhelmed. They can't help you out. Think about this in your job search. 2,000 people from one company in one day just got laid off, from one company in one day in one field. 3,000 the next day from another company. And you could do the math or whatever. They're literally overwhelmed with the number of people who are now, well, I switched to tech. Y'all told me to switch to tech. What now? You might have to get back out of tech, y'all. You might have to go back to a different industry or field, maybe not forever, but there's so many people who've been laid off in tech. So many. And it's not saying that you're not worthy and that you're not a great candidate and that you can't do the work. There's literally so many people. Everybody is overwhelmed with the amount of people that they could even sort through to choose from, which is why it comes in handy to have a great recruiting partner. But it's like being in the restaurant when you're overwhelmed, right? Another thing, and this is totally random, but we're moving into the Fun Friday fact next. So my Fun Friday fact, I'm going to go first. I don't normally go first, but Erin, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you today. And it's only because it goes along with what I was just talking about. If you have not seen The Bear on Hulu, I don't really care if you watch all of it, but in season 3, the new season, I think it's episode 6, it's called Napkins. Go watch that episode. If you are a job seeker, you will feel and you will understand and you will get the goosebumps. And if you are not a job seeker, if you are somebody who's been comfortably employed, I think it will help you see what a lot of people are going through right now who are unemployed and how they feel. And it really, really captured me. I've been watching the show anyway, and I'd seen a post on LinkedIn about you got to watch this one up. And I was like, okay, when I get there, I'll get there. No, I was like cleaning my house and doing a bunch of stuff. When that episode came on, Erin, I sat still.
Oh, I got to watch it.
7 minutes. I sat still. I cried. But it's one of those things where if you're unemployed, you want to work, you want routine.
Absolutely.
It's the only thing you want in life. So if somebody's looking down on you because you're a job seeker, they can kick the curb. You can show up in me and Erin's inbox. We will cheer you on. We will support you. We'll give you some high fives. But my Fun Friday fact is that you should go watch season 3, episode 6 of The Bear on Hulu. All right, Erin.
You know, the whole show has been on my list for a while, so you inspired me. I'm going to put it to the top.
The whole show is good. If you've ever worked in hospitality, I will tell you though, because I've worked in, I've been a server and a bartender before. I've never worked in the kitchen, and this is mainly in the kitchen, but you will get anxiety and heart palpitations watching this.
Yeah. Okay.
You definitely will.
Yeah.
All right. So Erin, it is now your turn. What is your Fun Friday fact?
Okay, so as you all know, I am here on Gran Canaria right now, which is a technically Spanish island that is off the coast of Morocco and sort of close to the border with Western Sahara, right? So to orient yourself geographically. So there is a phenomenon here where a lot of Saharan sand and dust sort of blows over by way of some windstorms, and it has a name here. It's called Kalima. And so it can at times turn the sky sort of hazy, can even block out the sun a little bit, can really cause some poor air quality. It's really kind of a pain in the butt, right? Like the bane of the existence of the Canarian people, that they have to deal with Morocco's crappy sand and dust coming in, like ruining their beautiful blue skies and incredible weather. Well, just this week, I learned that this kalima, this dust, actually serves an incredible purpose. It really gave me a whole new appreciation for this, because these Saharan dust storms pick up all of this Saharan dust from the desert, blow it all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to South America, where these sand particles settle in the Amazon basin and are essentially the sole source of phosphorus for the Amazon basin. And so without this fertilizing phosphorus that blows over from Africa to South America, the Amazon rainforest would not exist as we know it. So this was mind-blowing for me to find out. And it made me think, you know what? It's cool. I'll deal with a little bit of a sandstorm.
It's not as annoying if we get to have a rainforest because
Yes. I mean, because
that's just so
I think the Amazon is producing all our oxygen. So I think, it's just like good reminder. Everything is connected. It's all symbiotic.
Erin's like, I won't breathe in the sand so that I can breathe in the oxygen.
That's right.
All right, guys. This was fun. I cannot believe we are already at the end of the show. Erin, thanks for spending the hour with us. Do you have any final words for the people?
Oh God, I guess my final word would be for those job seekers, right? Because I know that everything I just shared was probably really dispiriting in some ways. Hopefully also, inspiring and makes you feel like there are opportunities out there. But I mean, I am always on the side of job seekers. I'm here to support folks in any way that I possibly can. You're welcome to reach out. I make myself available in a variety of capacities, and really just, I think the most important thing that I want people to know is you will work again. I promise you. I have been laid off 4 times in the course of my career because this is just part and parcel of being a talent acquisition professional. Like, I've been there, know how much it sucks, and I've come out on the other side every time better off. And you will work again.
You will work again. You will be
You will.
okay.
I promise you will work again.
The light at the end of the tunnel is not a train. We promise. All right, guys. This was fun. If you didn't have fun, don't come back. Bye.
Ciao.